What's going on, guys? Unknown Player here, and today in this video, once again, we're going to be rounding up several topics and things to be aware of. We'll be looking at some interesting stuff about the Exo Stranger and if she might return one day, some secret loot rewards yet to be unlocked, a bunch of stuff about the raid and more. So as usual, several pretty random topics rounded up in one video. So the first topic I wanted to discuss is in relation to the Exo Stranger and some subtle hints that were made about her in the Curse of Osiris that I'm sure you saw recently. A ton of you guys asked me about this in my comments and on Twitter, and there are actually some pretty interesting story details that not many people know about that I want to mention. So as you probably heard, at the end of the Curse of Osiris campaign, Osiris actually calls Sagira his ghost, Little Light, and if you've been around since Destiny 1, you'll remember the only person that's ever called a ghost that was, of course, the Stranger. But I saw a lot of you asking, why did Osiris say that? Has he been hanging around with the Stranger? Doesn't mean we'll see more of her maybe in the future, or was it just a subtle Easter egg? So there are actually a couple similarities between both Osiris and the Stranger. Some are more simple and easy to notice, some are more complicated and go a bit deeper. Firstly, a pretty obvious one is the Stranger does of course have an interest in the Vex, and so does Osiris, but they both do have interest in quite a lot of enemies we face. The Stranger can also time travel with what looks like Vex technology. The way she disappears and kind of phases in and out with that Vex stuff around her seems to be very similar to what Osiris can do, and even before he went into the Infinite Forest, when he was part of the Vanguard, it was said that he can be seen at multiple places at once and also time traveling. The Stranger's rifle that she gives us, of course, was also reskinned as one of Osiris's forged weapons, which I don't think is a coincidence. I mean, out of all the dozens of pulse rifles they could have picked to reskin, they picked the Stranger's rifle, or No Time to Explain, which in itself was said to be made from Vex technology and also from the future. Now, the biggest connection between these two characters is actually from the original version of Destiny 1's story that was cut. Initially in the campaign, you would meet Osiris, and the Stranger was actually Osiris's assistant. Obviously, they completely changed the story and it's no longer the case, but initially the Stranger was the assistant to Osiris, and you were supposed to do missions with both of them. So it's pretty interesting that Bungie deliberately wrote Osiris to say Little Light, something that only the Stranger's ever said before, and it seems to be implying the characters are still connected somehow, but it is up to speculation if it's just a cool Easter egg, nothing more, or if it means something bigger. It is also worth noting that Sagira, who of course is the one that Osiris called Little Light, is an Egyptian name for Little One. That's what her name roughly translates to. The inspiration for Osiris is that he is supposed to be Egyptian, and that's the theme for Mercury as well. So that may be something that Sagira means Little One, obviously very similar to Little Light, but at the same time, Osiris deliberately called her Little Light and nothing else. So maybe Sagira was just the closest word that sounded like a real name for her, but it is definitely worth bearing in mind something pretty strange there. Now, some of you might be thinking that Luke Smith did say in an interview during the summer that they think they wrapped up the Stranger storyline, which is true, but he didn't actually say that she'll never return. He said that they thought they did a good job wrapping up her storyline, but then when the interview came out, pretty much the entire internet disagreed, saying no, her story was definitely not finished, and everyone expects more from her. So I wouldn't be surprised if the story team saw how much people want to see more from the Stranger, and they bring her back in some form. Her story was so open-ended, they could bring her back in any fashion, any form, and it would make sense. But a pretty interesting topic nonetheless, especially to see the Stranger still being referenced in the latest DLC. She was also of course mentioned in a scannable in the base game on IO, and Ghost says he wonders whatever happened to her and if she's okay, but they definitely left it very open-ended, and the fact the writers keep adding several references to the Stranger, it could be subtle nods or it could be laying the groundwork for her to return in the future. But as always, let me know your thoughts and theories down below in the comment section. I want to know what you guys think of the Stranger. So moving on, we're going to talk about a few rewards that nobody has obtained just yet. The safest assumption is that they could be secret items unlocked through some sort of puzzle in-game, but it is hard to say if they're time-gated or just really hard to unlock. These are two emblems, pretty cool looking ones. Master Gardener is obviously Vex related, with those same Vex triangles, the glowing ones that you see in Vault of Glass doors, and also this wall right here on Mercury. The second one is called Master Cartographer, similar neon design, and the symbol probably looks familiar to you, and that's because it's the same hologram you can see on the Cyclops boss, basically his face shield in the Garden World strike as a strike boss. It's possible both emblems are related to both strikes, one for each, but it's hard to relate the Master Gardener emblem, the one with the triangles, to the Tree of Probability strike, because that is mainly Cabal themed. I looked up what cartography means, and apparently it's the study and creation of maps, which could be something, maybe not, but these are the only two emblems added in Curse of Osiris that we don't have just yet. It's hard to imagine that these would be time-gated, especially how this one is definitely to do with one of the strike bosses, but maybe they're both related to that past Garden World. I think a big clue that these could be secret unlocks and not just time-gated is that they are publicly available right now in the database and not classified or hidden from us. The Osiris emblem, that yellow one that was hidden in Morse code of the comic, that was previously classified, so it was hidden from view completely and couldn't be seen in the database until hours after it was found. These two, on the other hand, aren't classified at all, so it does kind of imply that we should be able to get them in-game right now and aren't the same as that Osiris emblem. Either way, it's definitely a mystery that nobody has a clue how to unlock just yet, but if anything is discovered on them, I will let you guys know. Speaking of emblems, there are also 3 other ones that have a strange way of unlocking. These are these 3 you can see on screen right now. One, of course, for the Hunter, Titan, and Warlock. The way you get these is to actually equip and obtain a full set of Mercury Gear Advanced cells. So these armor sets, if you get a full set for one class, the second you put that armor on, every bit, the emblem is going to drop for you for that one class, and you still need to get the other 2. So that is a pretty secretive and weird way to get 3 emblems. Not a lot of people know about it, and it definitely isn't explained in-game, but there you go, that is how you get them. So moving on, let's talk about some raid stuff. There are a couple of raid weapons unobtainable right now inside the game that are probably going to be available in the prestige version of the Eater of Worlds raid layer. These were shown off by Ryan Gitter, one of the senior concept artists at Bungie. He makes some really cool stuff that I've shown off in previous videos, but he showed off the fusion rifle, as you can see, a little bit different to normal white and gold. I guess it's black and gold. There's also the sidearm. Now, another one also shown off in this patch was the grenade launcher, which of course we did get in the Eater of Worlds. Both the grenade launcher and the shotgun were the only 2 weapons available in the entire raid, which I did think was a bit disappointing. I wish there was a lot more and they had at least their own weapon set, like we do have a full armor set. Maybe that'll change in the prestige updates they're doing. Something that is very slightly possible that I thought of is that maybe these black and gold weapons are actually prestige versions of raid weapons they're introducing with the update. Obviously in Destiny 1 we sometimes had hard mode versions of weapons which were either specific guns or slightly different variations, but in Destiny 2 we had no adept weapons in Trials, no hard or prestige versions in the raid. They kind of got rid of that, which is definitely very disappointing. So as we know, in the January update they are kind of overhauling and giving a ton of incentives to the entire raid system. So it's hard to predict and speculate what they're going to do. All we know is they're going to change quite a lot. Again, my hope would be some sort of prestige actual weapons that are different. I'm guessing the only weapon missing from this would be a linear fusion rifle, and of course kinetic and energy variants of the weapons already have, so like an energy auto rifle and a kinetic pulse and scout rifle, things like that. But this is an early look at some of the weapons we haven't seen just yet. Now, those weren't the only images that Ryan uploaded. Normally when new content comes out, the Bungie artists are going to release art of things corresponding to that content and then hold back on the art from stuff not released just yet, as to not leak obviously. But there are more pieces related to Curse of Osiris. So there's one showing off the alternate versions of the Eon exotics. These are different holograms you can see, so different versions. As you can see, they're settled on the needles and spikes coming out from the arms. There's also the Prometheus lens, a very cool one of a much more evil looking Osiris. He looks like a witch almost. He's got this evil kind of part robotic hand. There's even one of the Destination armor, which of course are those sets from Vance. These are the ones that you have to collect for the emblems that I just showed off earlier in the video. These are rough sketches of them. There's also a drawing of the Crimson hand cannon inspired of course off Red Death. So next up is a bit of a PSA for you guys about one of the best weapons in the game that I'm sure a lot of you don't have, and something that is going to massively help you inside raids or difficult strikes or anywhere with a really difficult boss. But this is the Curtain Call rocket launcher being sold right now by Zavala. Of course, with the December update, most vendors have their full sets of armor on sale if you have the rank required, and also one random weapon on sale rotating weekly, so you have until next Tuesday reset to get this Curtain Call, and I wanted to mention this now to give you guys enough time if you don't have it yet. So you might be thinking, what's the big deal with the Curtain Call? Is it worth using over the Sins of the Past raid rocket launcher? To put it simply, the Curtain Call is way better against bosses and single targets. The Sins of the Past is made for massive groups of ads with a massive blast radius. So it's a situational thing. If you're using a rocket against ads or in Crucible, definitely want to go for Sins of the Past. But if you're doing a raid or anything where you use rockets on a boss, this Curtain Call is going to be the one you want. So comparing the two, the Curtain Call has a significantly higher reload speed, which is obviously the most important thing during a damage phase. It also has a faster fire rate, which is equally important, and also a faster velocity, which of course is how quickly the rocket travels and hits the target. So again, very important for hitting bosses quickly. Now, on the other hand, the Sins of the Past actually wins in handling and stability, which to be honest are not very important for rockets, so you can pretty much ignore those. The main benefit of this one is the blast radius, which is nearly double that of the Curtain Call. Obviously, again, that's going to be nothing against the boss, but in terms of ads or big amounts of enemies or Crucible, it's going to be a much better choice. I believe having a bigger blast radius also means the cluster bombs are going to spread out much further, which again, for ads or Crucible is going to be better. But against the boss, that might actually be worse for you because those clusters are going to spread out and possibly miss. So a small target like Callus, for example, a lot of those bombs are actually going to miss him completely. Obviously, Argos is huge, so I don't think there's a worry there. But for most bosses, having a big blast radius is actually bad for cluster bombs because a lot of them are going to spread out and miss. So that is why I say the Sins of the Past should be used against ads. You can simply hit more stuff with it with that bigger blast radius. But for bosses, always grab the Curtain Call. So I hope that's been some helpful information for you guys. I personally never actually use the Curtain Call. I always use the Sins of the Past for everything, even raid bosses. But looking into it, I did realize you should carry both of them, and they're both equally good for different situations. And with Zavala offering the Curtain Call, it is worth picking up before it goes away on Tuesday. So there you have it. As always, if you enjoyed this video, a like rating down below would always be much appreciated. Of course, stay tuned for a bunch more Destiny 2 videos and make sure you are subscribed if you aren't already. If you want to watch another Destiny 2 video that I recently made, you can click the image on screen right now to be taken to it, and I'll see you guys next one.